Sometimes I don't feel inspired to make a video. There is no sort of feeling to make a video. There's no inspiration to make a video. Although I have many things that I want to talk about and share, nothing comes forth. Or I try and I'm incomprehensible. I don't say what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking. It doesn't come out okay. And there are other times where I feel like I have to make a video, like I have to talk. Like even now, I know what I'm going to talk about. I have an idea, I have a feeling. It can go any which way, I'm not quite sure where. But, it's spontaneous in a sense. I mean, it is very much got to do with where I'm at, what I'm experiencing, what's happening for me, etc. And otherwise I have to talk. It's like, it's sort of if you have, I don't know, an absolute desperate need, like if you need the toilet very badly, you have you're just consumed by you can only think about the toilet, about going to the toilet, about relieving yourself or something or other. You can't think about anything else. And for myself, it's the same with videos at times. I just got to get it out. And I'm going again here for a walk in Modderfontein Nature Reserve. If you can hear the water flowing. And, another thing for myself is that I can make videos where I'm thinking, what am I, I feel I've got no value or quality to them. Sometimes I get so frustrated with the process because, at times I'll do a recording and I'll think to myself, wow, this is like a really good video. I hope this reaches people. I hope it makes a difference. I hope it's comprehensible. I hope it's worth people's time, and it's beneficial. And then when I listen to it again, I'm like, I just delete it. It's like I don't even bother uploading. I'm like, what was I thinking at the time? I have such a heavy self-criticism over my videos, and sometimes it's such a frustration. It's so like, sometimes I'm inspired, I'm motivated, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Other times I'm like, I just don't want to make videos ever again. Like, just not delete my channel almost, but like, we go through these moods. It's like a tug and war almost. And that's what I feel. And sometimes I feel like it doesn't matter how many people watch my videos. Doesn't matter how many people like or dislike my videos. Eric Preston, still has to dislike every one of my videos, thumb it down, It doesn't matter sometimes, like how many subscribers I have, how many people view it, how many comments I get. And then other times, as long as I'm talking, as long as I'm doing my part. But then other times I'm like, no, I feel, unappreciated. I feel I'm talking to myself. There's no one on the receiving end of these talks that I'm doing. It's not appreciated, it's not recognized, it's not valued, or I'm not even understood, or something like that. I'm in my own little bubble, in my own little world, like in something or other, and and then I feel like taken for granted, not appreciated, not recognized, not felt, not understood. And I say, screw it, like, I'm not, and so I have these tug of wars in these different moods that I go through. And sometimes I really feel like if I make a poor video and like I'm reflecting on it and I'm about to delete it, I think to myself, have I ever made a decent video? Like depending on the mood that I'm in, depending on how my situation is. Maybe I've been in my, like I've been in the same city, my house for too long. I haven't been out in nature. I haven't had a refreshment of environment, a refreshment of people. It's day in and day out, like just the same old type of situation. Like go to the store, buy some groceries, whatever it is. Go on YouTube, go on go for a walk, go and get takeaways from this restaurant. Have a conversation. And it's just like there's very little adventure. And when I don't have adventure, I get very, very dull. I get very, very uninspired. I get very overwhelmed and heavy by by the reality of things. I get very weighed down. I get very stressed, right? I feel very worthless. Like no matter how many videos I made, no matter how many people's lives I felt like I've touched through my journey, when it comes to, like in those moments where it's been going on for weeks and weeks, it's the same old, frustrating conversations with people, or just very limited or superficial, like, just too much of the narrative, of the hyper-controlled narrative, too much of the matrix world. Frustrated, like being in the city, the lights, the fluorescent lighting at night. I'm saying, like in my room, the street lights shine in, other people's lights shine in. I don't get that space, I don't get that tranquility. I just feel hemmed in, trapped in, painted into a corner, and just feel like, what the hell is it all for? And I just feel like I got to carry on, because there's nothing else that I can do. Lonely. What else can I do? Disconnected, what it feels like, from nature, disconnected from adventure, from interesting, stimulating people. The people that I do come across, their lives are in such chaos, they have so much unfulfilled potential. They're mostly just, supporting mask wearing, I'm saying the persona and mask wearing in a way, whatever it is, and you talk, you're not reaching each other on the same level, and whatever. Anyways, it's besides the point, isn't it? Getting carried away. But we go through these real moments of inspiration, moments of motivation, moments of courage, and then, moments whatever. And then moments of just such despair, such helplessness, hopelessness, anguish, anxiety, meaninglessness. That's the hardest one. Sometimes it just feels so meaningless, so it has got no meaning. And then sometimes there's so much meaning, and you just don't know what to do with it. Wow, where I'm walking is very hot, eh? It's like baking into the grass here. And then the wind blows and it's a bit of a heat, picks up the heat. So it's like a hot wave of air, in a way. Yeah, and also the medium of YouTube, like how amazing it would be if we could talk again face to face with one another, I mean, I'll only be uploading this probably like in about, a week from now, maybe 2 weeks from now. I don't know. Maybe I'll look back on this and think, well, there wasn't anything worthwhile to upload. I don't know. Or something or other. Anyways, so there's much that I can talk on, that I'd like to talk on, but where do we go from here? It's this issue with my mother. She asks me, she often asks my input on relationships with her husband, with her stepdaughter. Oh, she would really be unhappy if she knew that I was talking about her. But I'm using it as a reference point, I'm using it as a point in my life that that's happening, that I can well relate to. And I have a feeling that I'm going to have to stop this, because I have a feeling I can see that they've got weed eaters. They're busy trimming the grass, making a path in front of me. I can hear them coming up. So I'm going to have to pause. And I'm going to have to try to remember my place and what I was saying, in regards with my mother and kind of disclosing. But I don't know, I feel like in the afterlife, when we both have moved on from this life and this reality, and look back, and she'll say, no, it was absolutely essential, and I completely understand why you needed to use my life and our relationship as an example, to help you, like as a platform to speak on from your own direct experience, and how it is that you were learning and growing through it, So I'm talking about it in respect to It's not gossip. It's not trying to cause harm in any sort of way. And again, that's why I've really made my channel as private as I possibly can, where I moved it from the Aaron Gach one to this Mystify Me one, so I can have a smaller audience. And I know that most of my audience is not anybody who is familiar with my family to a degree, although I'm not exactly sure if that is the case. But anyways, I don't know if you can hear the weed eaters coming up in the distance, so I'm going to have to pause and restart in just a little while. Alright, so my mother, in the relationship with her stepdaughter, and my mother feels that like she'll ask her stepdaughter things about like how much does she charge an hour for her practice, just general questions or something or other. My mother's interested in it, and she genuinely is, and she's working on the relationship, but her stepdaughter is very, very sort of detached. She keeps everybody at a distance, right? She doesn't disclose much. She keeps her life very confidential, and my mother almost feels like rejected. It's like, well, why does she do that, type of thing. And then my mother in herself will feel that, well, is there something wrong with me? She'll personalize it in that way, and then she'll get angry at my her stepdaughter, saying, well, look, I'm trying to be there for you. I am trying to show an interest. I do really care just for you as a human being, as well as my stepdaughter, to make that effort. And she's being sincere. My mother is sincere, and in this way, but she feels like rejected, like, wow, what's wrong with me, And so much part of life do we personalize things when things aren't necessarily personal. Now, there's a bit of the New Age, I think, A Course in Miracles. I'm not sure who it is, where it is said, if it is A Course in Miracles, where they say, like, or the 4 rules or something like that, don't take anything personally. And that's not true. You can't take nothing personally, because there are some things that are definitely personal. But, so coming back, like I say to my mother, okay, but you're looking at a snapshot of your stepdaughter's life. You need to draw back and see her upbringing. You need to see, that she, her circumstance, and she didn't have much of a relationship with her father. Father, as I've mentioned before, is a very difficult man, very overbearing man. She's the youngest of, I think, like 4 children, but like extremely young. I mean, her older brothers could be her parents, and her sisters could be her parents, type of thing. And you can be sure that she's had no self-esteem. The way that her father raised her, or something like that. Then she had a mother who was very much like a strong matriarch type of woman, sort of, very whatever. And then her mother passed away a few years ago, so she's like an orphan in a way, because her father's not really a father. Her stepbrothers and steps she can't relate to, and so so she hasn't got a self-esteem. So she feels very vulnerable. She feels like judgment, she's afraid of judgment. So she doesn't disclose a lot about herself because she can't handle judgment, she can't handle criticism. Her father was very, very critical of her when growing up, extremely. So she's very sensitive to it, right? And so she doesn't disclose information. This is what I'm telling my mother. I mean, this is what I feel is... Okay, hold on. Okay. Oh, my phone fell on the floor. Microphone came out. So I can't exactly remember what I was saying, but I think, again, that for my stepsister, one of her coping mechanisms is to keep her inner world very confidential, and then put out a mask, an external mask. And she wears a very big mask, my stepsister. She's got a very loud voice. She doesn't realize that she speaks louder than everybody else. She obviously needs the attention and whatever it is. before. It's very hard to tolerate. It's very hard to tolerate people's masks and coping mechanisms and personas that they wear in order to protect themselves, right? Because they got no self-esteem, so they have to wear a mask, and the mask is actually sort of the demonic side, if you will, so to speak, often of the time, right? It's this loud, boisterous, grandiose, sort of self-entitled, me, energy or whatever, or character, if you will. And it's highly destructive. I mean, that's what we're seeing in the world today. That persona, ego, whatever you want to call it, mask wearing, is all fundamentally based on a coping mechanism, but it's kind of like it's an aggressive, forceful, manipulative, deceitful character, right? Archetype in a way, so to speak, because it's defending the scared inner child, right? That feels vulnerable and exposed, and that has no self-esteem, has no rights, has no feelings, has no value, right? And has never actually been allowed to breathe life, has never been encouraged, has never been supported in its true nature, has never been unconditionally loved, understood, felt, or something or other. It's never had that opportunity. It's never been able to grow. So in its place, something else grew, right? Which is the inauthentic self, And so with my stepsister, one of her mechanisms of survival, or her strategy, her coping mechanism, is to be very confidential and not disclose anything really about herself that is true of her true nature, or just private details about her, of herself, because then again judgment can be formed upon her, criticism can be formed upon her, and she can't handle that, right? She can't handle criticism. Most people cannot handle criticism. When you play the victim role, right, you cannot hear any criticism whatsoever, even though it's positive criticism, even though it's constructive criticism, and it's healthy, and it's a needed criticism, and it's feedback that is very, very necessary. But people don't want to hear it. Like my brother, I believe that I could help him in certain areas, in certain ways, but he's such a victim that anything that came out of my mouth would just seem as an attack on his character. He is so super sensitive, and I'm like, it's not. I don't care. Why do I care, man, to insult you? Why do I care to critique you in a negative way? What do you think I'm gaining out of it? Like, I've got nothing to gain from it. You see? But I'm also holding in the place that I'm not a victim because of his actions. And I try not to be a victim in general. So I'm not coming to try, like, my mask, my persona, my ego is not coming to try and trample on his, right? And outdo his, and like show, oh, well, you're grandiose, or you're deceptive, or you're self-deceiving, or you're self-sabotaging. It's not, and because I'm trying to get one up on him. I'm not trying to get one up on him. I'm not. And most people, when we come and we try and tell them about, well, maybe you shouldn't believe the narrative of culture that they're spewing. You shouldn't buy into the whole CV story. You shouldn't maybe be so eager to take the needle. It feels like, well, you're judging me that I can't make up my own mind. Well, so possibly you can't make up your own mind, but I'm not judging you because you're weak. I'm trying to rescue you here. But you can't see it because you won't take, you can't take self-criticism. Like if I see, well, I don't know, maybe you're spending too much on alcohol, or on drugs, or on fashion clothing, or whatever it is. Maybe this is what often happens. But generally, most of the time, we don't come to each other with real care and concern and love. We come to sort of outshow, well, I'm better than you type of thing. And you should be doing it my way, not your way. Like religions are like that. With Christianity, it's like, I'm coming to save your soul, in a way, for your own good, and you must be like me, type of thing. You say, but you're impeding on my rights and who I am and my own thinking ability. Well, you're not able to think for yourself, and I'm telling you. So that is like coerciveness, that's manipulation, whatever it is, etc. So when we've done a lot of our own healing, we're not coming towards other people in a way of criticizing them. Like, you know, for myself, I don't know how I feel about this idea of the sheeple, you know, and I don't call people sheeple, but there is something to this, that we get frustrated with people that are polluting and intoxicating this planet. I get frustrated when I walk down this river or this dam over here, and I've seen people that are getting up, let's just say, and leaving all their trash, all their KFC, all their Coca-Cola bottles, all their cigarette butts, and the box as well, everything. Like when I walk on the beach, and I've seen people just get up and leave, and I'm seeing them walk away, you know, and believe me, you don't want to get into a fight with some of these people. They'll take you out, man. So who do you think you're talking to? It's not your problem. You know, there's no ways you're going to... So that's a small example. But it offends me when people sell out. It offends me when people's ego and survival and coping mechanism personas, you know, are damaging the world, are hurting their own children, hurting nature, hurting the animals. And we're all on the same boat. You know, we're all on the Titanic, and they're like sinking it at a rapid rate. And you're on the bloody thing with them, and you're like, how can I not hate them? How can I not loathe them? How can I not call them idiotic? How can I not call them stupid? Or whatever it is, you know? How can I not look... My mother tells me about a Jewish professor here in South Africa. He's been, you know, an immunologist or whatever it is, I don't know. And he's been pushing the whole needle story, you know, behind it. He just sees himself as such a superhero, frontline worker. You know, finally he's getting like his minutes of fame, and he's just milking it for whatever it's worth. My mother would be like, no, but he's a professor. He would think, and so he went and he got the jab, he got the needle, and he got sick from it for like 12 hours or 14 hours. He was severely sick. He says he couldn't move, every muscle in his body ached. He says he couldn't sleep, he couldn't think straight. He said it was absolutely awful, but yet we still must take it. You know, this is the Johnson & Johnson needle that they say is literally a trial here in South Africa. And he's like, we must still take it, you know, whatever it is, plod on. And it's like, oh, you're a professor and you didn't realize what the mortality rate is of the so-called V is. You know, you haven't worked it out, like your intelligence, you know. So I said to my mother, you know, and he's encouraging people to take the needle and fight for their rights to take it because the government here is moving so slowly. It's like, come on, people, we need to save lives here. So I said to my mother, you know, he should be taken off to the gallows and hung. You know, and a part of me really feels that way, because a part of my reaction is that I feel like maybe I'm saving a few lives, you know. But it's not my place, so to speak. That's not my war. Maybe it's a war for other people or something like that. I mean, what would you do? What would the good folk do? What would the awakened folk do, if you want to call it, with these kind of people who's still pushing the agenda? If we had the power in our own hands, what would we do with them? We'd excommunicate them, right? We would say, look, you're in absolute danger, you know? Like, we just can't have you aboard our, you know, we just can't... There's just no ways, because you're just so dangerous, right? You're so driven by ego, your persona. Anyway, so coming back. So, with my mother, I'm kind of saying you've got to see that, you know, your stepdaughter is not who she fronts herself to be. Deep down inside, there's a very fragmented self, broken apart, right? And whatever it is. And it's almost like, instead of you feeling that you're being rejected, that you can feel sorry for her, you can actually feel empathy for her. You see, this is I think the challenge in regards to spirituality and consciousness. This is a very, very hard challenge, that we are to look upon others that are in pain and they are acting out of pain. It's a very, very hard thing, and this is the most profound line, one of the most profound lines in the Bible that I can think of is this: forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. And so for my mother, even in her relationship to her husband, instead of her seeing, well, husband, and this is, he's supposed to be on this level, he's supposed to take care of me like this, I say, you know what, you're not in a marriage. Rather see, let's have a look at the storyline of your husband's upbringing. Let's have a look. See what kind of parents he had, whatever it is. When you start looking, you realize that this is not somebody who can be healthily functioning if they haven't worked on themselves, if they haven't done the healing, if they haven't done the shadow work, or whatever it is. They're not going to be fully functioning, right? They're going to be a broken individual, scared, afraid, neurotic, paranoid, grandiose. This is what they're going to be. So by you demanding that you want a husband to be a husband, you're fooling yourself, right? And you're not realizing the reality. You're not seeing reality for what it is. And this is the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems in the world today is that we do not see reality for what it is. We do not see where evil comes from. We do not see where darkness comes from. We do not see where ego comes from. We do not see where grandiosity comes from. We do not see where personality comes from. We do not see these things and where they come from. And so I'm just going to keep an eye out here that, things are fine. Yeah, in that way. All right. How's it? Yeah. I just saw somebody coming, and I'm walking out with my cell phone, so I just want to be sure that I'm safe in a way, but it was fine. But again, it's we don't know these things. We're not looking at it, and so we're not willing to be serious. We're not willing to see like mainstream media. Well, we were in the beginning as being liars, and government as being controllers, and not out for our best interest. We're not willing to see. We want to be like, yes, we can get married at the age of 22, 23, 24 years old. We love each other. We're going to spend the rest of our lives together, happily to death do us part. Say like, no, forget about it. But besides for that, we don't want to see reality for what it is. We want people to behave a certain way. We want them to understand in a certain way, and they can't. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. Well, no, you're my husband, so that means that you must be a fully functioning, man who's embodied in his masculinity. Whatever it is, that's done his initiation, he's done his shadow work, or whatever it is. He knows who he is in truth. He knows how he serves in truth. He knows what he is in truth. It's like he's self-actualized. No, why? Why? Just because you have that sense of entitlement, just because you think government must behave correctly, you're going to go protest and say, no, government must behave correctly. The government even knows how to behave correctly. It's ridiculous. It's like having a 3-year-old, the expectation of a 3-year-old being able to drive an aeroplane, to fly an aeroplane. This is what we do. We put these expectations on one another, even on children and whatever, on the whole of life, to be something that we're completely not, to be personas that we are not, to be actors in a game that we are not. We don't know how to do it, and yet we put it all on each other. Right? These unreasonable expectations that we put on each other and what we think each other really is, and we're not. Like, we think, we see a pretty woman or a pretty guy, and we think, they must be intelligent, they must be, they must have the whole package because they're pretty. Or this guy's got money, so he's very intelligent, he's very, he's very good at business, he's very sharp, or something like that. Or like, DiCaprio or Mr. Brad Pitt, like they must be such interesting people. They must be like they're gods in a way, and they don't have any human flaws or something like that, and everything comes easy to them, whatever it is. And they're like or the Prince William or Prince Harry or something like that, the chosen people, or the selected, the blue bloods or the royals or something like that. And like, I don't know if I'm making sense here, but like even a professor, we look at this professor, this guy, in South Africa here. They must be intelligent, they must be, with integrity, they must have honor. Gurus, priests, rabbis, but the whole lot are corrupt. It's corruption. It's corruption. The police, we expect the police to be honest. It's corruption. How do we expect to be moral, outstanding, virtuous citizens, I'm saying people, human beings, how do we expect to be that way when we have no idea how to do it? Because we have no idea how to do it, therefore we put on these masks and we wear these masks and we have a whole masquerade, of whatever mask wearing, and that's what we do. And we are completely useless. We are completely useless parents most of the time. We are completely useless to ourselves most of the time. We don't know how to take care of ourselves in body, mind, and spirit. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the know-how, we don't have the tools. And yet, because we're so grandiose, we think that we do. We think we have and we trust one another, we trust the pharmaceutical companies, we trust the television, what the people say on the news media, we trust, You trust the water that comes out of the taps, you trust all these things, and for what? And why? There is no reason to do that, But yet we do. You trust that, you marry this girl or this guy at 23, 24 years old, that it's going to work out to be a sweet, happy ending, a beautiful, till death do you part, the love of your life, soulmates, And we have this expectation. It's like, forget about it. There's absolutely no way it's even reasonably possible. But yet we have this sense of entitlement. This is what we owed. This is what we deserved unto us, And anything, we want a life doesn't have any challenges. We don't want anyone who thinks different than us, and acts different than us, and feels different to us. We must all accept the current narrative, or whatever the religion you must have. We must all aspire to the same goals and values, which is not even value, whatever you want to consider values to be. And we put these expectations on one another. And we say we're free. We don't even know what freedom is. We are like such little children. We have no freaking clue how to operate this thing called life. And there'll be potentially a follow-up talk on, does that mean we just screwed? It's doom and gloom? No, it's not about that, because I don't think we understand what the meaning and purpose of life is at the same time, which is for another talk. And so we have these expectations. We have this expectation that the planet is, nature is going to still keep on providing for us, even though we act a certain way, that we are above it. We feel that we are so advanced, we are such an advanced civilization, but we see only the so-called qualities, the advances. We don't see how, that's where I think Jordan Peterson was wrong when he was talking about how far, so many people have been lifted out of poverty in the world. There's less, but it's not true. It's like most people have just been plugged further into the matrix by being lifted out of poverty and access to electricity and access to modernized whatever it is, whatever. The argument of when the Europeans came to colonize Africa, people were sitting in mud huts, while in Europe, and they had these colosseums, these mansions and these castles and whatever it is, and these primitive people, so we need to all build castles. Anyway, that's besides the point. Same expectation, unreasonable. Must all see life the same way. Anyways, I'm losing my point here. Anyway, so the point with my mother that I was saying to her is that you will feel victimized, you will feel entitled, you will feel frustrated, and you will not know how to handle the relationship with your stepdaughter or your husband until you know who you are. Until you know who you are, you've seen that, okay, they themselves are fragmented, right? So you yourself are also fragmented. When you see what horrors lie inside of them and their disconnect, their disassociation, their inauthenticity, then you see it in yourself, right? When you see how they play the victim and you see yourself, how you playing the victim, how you're seeing that they've got such a high sense of self-entitlement, then you learn about your self-sense of entitlement, or their expectations on, for your husband, then you realize, hold on a minute, I've also got these things. And this is the conversation that the talk that I wanted to do in regards to one of the first steps of awakening is taking responsibility for all your wrongdoings in this life. You follow? So what I'm saying with my mother is that, so she sees all the illness, all the toxicity in her husband. She sees it in herself. She sees all the woundedness. She sees what the real situation is. And then she builds herself up anew on a strong foundation, with a spine, with boundaries, balanced, in the healthy masculine and feminine, right? Or whatever it is. Standing in her power. She knows who she is in truth. She knows how she serves in truth, right? Then she's able to understand her husband, which is not really her husband, but another human being who's just had a very, very troubled life and upbringing, and is not capable of having a marriage. She's not capable of understanding her needs, her values, or anything like that. When she understands the tragedy of her stepdaughter's life, of her upbringing and things like that, and her own tragedy, and she's healed from that tragedy, then, only then, she can have a healthy relationship, or I don't know if she could, but more from her point of view with her stepdaughter, where she doesn't feel that she's being rejected by her stepdaughter because her stepdaughter's not including her, or is keeping secrets from her. Not even secrets, but she's not disclosing. She's being very confidential, and she's not answering the questions that my mother answers. So my mother doesn't feel rejected. She understands where it's coming from. So we understand the wounded people and where their pain is coming from, and the actions that they're doing are coming from a sense of pain. And therefore we don't judge them, for they know not what they do. But it's very hard living with them, there's no question about it. And I'm certainly not on that level where I can justify people's wrongdoings and actions when a man molests a child, or child trafficking or something like that. These things I don't understand. These things are beyond me. When a man tortures somebody else, I'm saying physical torture or whatever it is, I don't understand it. I don't understand how a mother, Munchausen syndrome, where the mother can poison her own child and make a child sick so that people will feel sorry for the mother because the child is sick. She goes out of her way to poison her own child. This is true. This is real. I don't understand this. I don't understand the nature of evil, right? I can't understand. I can't relate to it. And it's always going to be my challenge in that way, to try and not understand, but work with and navigate through this darkness of the world that we live in, of hurt, wounded, and pain, and whatever it is. And I can see beyond all the makeup. I can see beyond all the plastic surgery, all the cosmetics, all the Botox. I can see beyond all the fashionable design. I can see beyond all the perfumes. I can see beyond all the name brands of cars, of watches, or whatever it is. I can see beyond all of it, the size of your car, the size of your house, right, the size of your bank account. I can see beyond all of that. I'm not fooled, right? When you have the eyes to see. But when you do, it's treacherous. Enlightenment, awakening is very, very despairing. It's very, very overwhelming, because it's not pretty. You are looking at deep toxicity. You are looking at deep corruption. You are looking at deep woundedness, deep pain, which is manifested into a dark type of evil. It's not a pleasant sight, people. It's not pleasant. It's not comfortable. And that's why most people don't necessarily want to do it. And I don't think it is for everybody. Anyways, so I hope I'm making the point of my mother, making sense. Is that for herself, she won't know how to handle her husband's outrages. Before she would just compromise herself and allow his abuse and tolerate it and almost say thank you for it. And there's much to be said. My throat is taking a bit of strain now. And there's so much more to be said. Anyway, but we cannot have a kind of healthy relationship in a way. I see people are coming. We cannot have a healthy relationship with anybody else, with ourselves, or a meaningful relationship, rather, let's just say, if we don't have a meaningful relationship with ourselves and a healing relationship with ourselves. So you see, instead of us seeing other people as bad, it's rather seeing them as broken. It's rather seeing them as dumb, rather than seeing them as divided amongst themselves, right? Seeing these things, seeing with the real eyes, again, seeing what is the truth, seeing beyond the surface and whatever it is. So it's very, very complicated. And then it takes courage. It takes courage to to believe in your own convictions, to believe in the things that I'm saying, to believe that you can see, that you can feel what's true, you know. And it takes courage to be able to help heal others. And I suppose that's for another talk as well, but about this healing, this idea of healing. Are we not here to heal? You know, are we not there to remove the stumbling block that's been put in front of the blind man? Is that not our job here? Is that not what our duty is? Is that not what our calling is? You know? Could very well be. Alright folks, I feel there's more I could cover, but my throat is taking a bit of strain. And I just hope I made a bit of sense there in what I was saying. Alright, wishing you well and take care.